Your Honor, yesterday, an individual by the name of Travis Bloom attempted to enter the courtroom while the proceedings were occurring. He was stopped by security and told he could enter at breaks. At that point, he stayed outside the courtroom, but was heard outside the courtroom making very loud comments that were heard by Sheriff's Deputy Sam Smith inside the courtroom. I apologize, he was outside, but he was heard making very loud comments. At that point, he was told that he needed to be quiet, couldn't interrupt the court proceedings. He was asked to leave at that point. He began to respond with profanity and intense behavior. At that point, Deputy Smith told him, based on his behavior, he was not going to be allowed to come back to the courtroom proceedings for fear that he would continue to disrupt the proceedings, as is the responsibility of the Sheriff's Office for the security of the courtrooms. He attempted to re-enter the courtroom today. He was told that he was not going to be allowed to enter the courtroom, and again, he responded with profanity and anger and was escorted out of the courtroom outside of the courthouse by sheriff's deputies. I did want to make a record of that. It is an open proceeding. However, the open proceedings are limited to spectators who are able to control their behavior both inside and outside of the courtroom. At this point, Mr. Bloom has shown that he could not do that. So the Sheriff's Office, acting in their discretion and their authority for the security of the courthouse, have banned him from returning to the courtroom. I wanted to make a record of that so the court was aware and so the defense was aware. Thank you.
Your Honor, I object to this. Your Honor, throughout my time here, my family has been repetitively denied. I understand Travis Bloom is an idiot. I understand that, fully understand that. He holds a good heart. They didn't arrest him yesterday. If he did all them things, they probably should have arrested him, right? I mean, these are very serious matters. To limit him from the courtroom simply because of this is ridiculous. If a person does not know that they cannot come in during a time that is not a recess, then maybe they should be explained that, or maybe there should be notices posted on a wall somewhere. Your Honor, for them to give him one warning and tell him you cannot come back in the courtroom is wrong. I believe the man should have a chance. I understand where he's highly agitated. I would be too, considering what's going on with my family. This is quite ridiculous. I believe he should be enabled as long as he can control himself. He was simply pushed out of the courtroom without giving notice. That deputy yesterday did not give him notice that, hey, you can't come in when it's not recess, sir. I said, you can't come in, and I heard it. I heard it with my own ears. It's wrong. I've been prejudicially treated the whole time I've been here. Insanely and ridiculously treated. Now my family has to be treated over that. It's wrong. I am in hopes and pray that the courts give him an opportunity to come in here as long as he can control his manners and sit quietly and not interrupt the courts. This has been an ongoing problem, Your Honor. I've addressed it many times I've addressed the prejudice to me very many times. I've brought proof of it. I have a red thumb drive, a verbatim brand that has proof of prejudice done to me, where I have been assaulted in this courthouse or in this jail and in this courthouse building. People have made note of it, not just outside of this courthouse today,
Mr.
but
Yohn,
people.
if I could focus you back on Mr. Bloom. That's the issue before us today.
Your Honor, and I apologize, but I am focused on that. The prejudice has been ongoing, and I believe it is even more prejudice that my one family member who is local is not permitted to sit in. He simply tried to come in, and as I said, he's an idiot. He doesn't know that. I wouldn't know that. A common person wouldn't know that you can't come in during a recess or during a time that's not a recess. I believe he should be given a chance, Your Honor.
Mr. Yohn, that's fine. I've heard your argument. The gentleman in the back courtroom by the door with law enforcement, what's your name?
Deputy Yohn.
You step outside the door and see if there's anything posted about their entering the courtroom during a recess.
There is, Your Honor.
And what does it say, sir?
It says, you may only enter the courtroom at recess or breaks.
And you were here yesterday, sir?
I was.
And was that sign posted on the door at all times?
I believe so.
Have a seat, Mr. Yohn. Your motion or objection is overruled. Your, as you described, idiot relative Travis Bloom should have read the door sign before he tried to enter the courtroom, and so he was advised of the court rules. And as he has attempted to disrupt these proceedings yesterday as represented, he will be barred from attending further proceedings in this matter. Mr. Jones, is the state ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
Mr. Yohn, is the defense ready to proceed?
I have no choice, Your Honor.
All right, we'll have the bailiff bring the jury in. For the record, all members of the jury are present and have returned to the jury box. We left off with the state having presented 3 witnesses. So, Mr. Jones, case is still in your court. Or on your side, do you wish to call your next witness?
We do, Your Honor.
Okay, who will that be?
Yeah, the people would call Joe Lohmeyer.
And Mr. Joe Lohmeyer, call in. If you come. Joe Lohmeyer?
I believe they're getting it.
Is that you? No, all right. Just happened to come in right. Came in at the right time, apparently. All right, Mr. Lohmeyer, if you'd come forward to the clerk and raise your right hand, she will swear you in.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
You can have a seat over here on the witness stand, please. Ms. Keck, when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you tell us your name, please?
Joe Lohmeyer,
Mr. Lohmeyer, how are you employed?
Sergeant, Patrol, Adams County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked with the Adams County Sheriff's Department?
About 18 years.
I'm sorry, can I
About 18 years.
have you pull that a little bit closer? My hearing is terrible, so. Sergeant Lohmeyer, were you working on the evening of November 9th, 2021?
Yes,
That evening, about 6:30 in the evening, did a call come in where you responded to 4300 Bottom Road here in Quincy?
yes.
Tell us what the call was that came in.
The call came in as a woman carjacking and rape.
When you arrived at the residence of 4300 Bottom Road that evening, did you go inside the house?
Yes,
Before you went inside the house, did you notice anything about the front area of that house? As far as any markings on
the front of the house kind of had a bit of a circle drive, and there was a grassy area in the center. There's some tire marks on the grassy area in the center.
When you went inside, did you notice anything about the door leading from the garage into the house?
Yeah, the door from the garage into the house, there were footprints on the door. It had been kicked in. The door hinge or the latch was broke.
And if we can put People's Exhibit 39 on the screen. Sergeant Lohmeyer, is this what you saw when you talked about that it had been kicked?
Yes.
Mark here.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, was there this mark right here in the drywall?
Yes.
And for the record, I'm pointing to an indent in the drywall. If we go to People's Exhibit 40, and this was a close-up of that mark in the drywall, correct?
Yes.
When you went into the residence further, did you observe an individual inside of that residence?
Yes.
Tell me what you observed about that individual.
There was a older female sitting on the floor with her legs kind of off to the side. She appeared distraught.
When you saw this older female, did you know who that was at that point?
No.
When you responded that evening, you were one of the first officers on scene, correct?
Yes. Deputy Bowden and I arrived at about the same time.
Is your job when you first respond to just get a very basic statement from an individual?
Yes.
And you said that you had been told, based on the dispatch report, that it was for a carjacking and I believe you said a rape. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you have information about whether or not the suspects were on scene?
The suspects were not on scene.
Based on the fact that that was the report and you did not know where the suspects were, what was your concern?
We have a woman reporting a rape and violence, and so my concern is community safety, you know,
Because you want to find out where
this guy is at and try to stop any future problems.
based on that, is that why you then got a statement from this woman?
Yes.
Did you learn that her name was Tina Lohman?
Yes.
And did you ask her what had happened?
Yes.
Tell us what she told you had occurred.
Objection, Your Honor. Testimonial hearsay.
Your Honor, the officers testified that he was on scene, the suspects were missing, she was distraught, and he needed to find those suspects for community safety, which is all exception to the hearsay rule and confrontation clause.
Court will overrule the objection as the hearsay falls within that exception. You may answer the question.
Okay. So she said she was on her way home and it was...
Sergeant Lohmeyer, can I have you get a little bit
Yeah.
closer?
Okay. She said she was on her way home. It was evening time. She drives a car where the headlights typically turn on automatically. But someone else had used the car previously or somehow the automatic thing was not working. So as it was starting to get dark, she was concerned about the lights. So she stopped on North Bottom Road to try to fix the light situation. And she said a truck pulled up behind her, and she initially thought, a man got out, she initially felt that he was there to help her with whatever situation she was having, and then learned that, this was going to be a situation where he told her to scoot over, get over in the passenger seat with threat of violence, and he took the car.
Sergeant Lohmeyer, once she told you that he took the car, did you also ask her as she was continuing on if she could give you a description of this man so that you could try to locate this man?
Yeah, she described a white, scruffy, redheaded male. That was the male description.
Did she also describe if he had any facial hair?
Scruffy beard.
As after he had taken her car, what did she say that he did?
She said that he began rubbing her crotch. I think she said he demanded her jewelry first. So she gave him he took all the jewelry she had on herself, and then her cell phone. And she said he threw the cell phone out the window. She said while this was occurring, he at times was rubbing her crotch over her clothes. She was very, very scared. And
Sergeant Lohmeyer, as she was telling all these things, you said at the beginning that she was distraught. Was she still distraught as she was telling you these things?
Yes, very distraught. I've would you like me to describe it?
Yes, please.
Okay. So when I saw her, she was on the floor. There was some crying, but it was also, I think, what I've seen in other people is shock, just disbelief, kind of bewilderment. When I would talk to her and ask her what happened, there was like a pain for kind of remembering it, and some hesitation. and it was kind of a little bit disjointed as far as how the conversation went. And I think that was a reflection of how emotional she was. You know, she seemed, you know, I describe it as shock, but it was the best I can describe that. Just utter confusion, I think, and disbelief is kind of what I read in her face, and pain, I think, of remembering what happened.
Sergeant Lohmeyer, as she continued to tell you, you said that she was then driving home. Once they got home, what did she say she did?
Your Honor, I'd like to object. I'd like to raise a continuing objection to testimonial hearsay. This does not fall under spontaneous declaration or anything of the such, as she had already spoken with others before this.
All right, Ms. Keck, care to respond?
Your Honor, we heard yesterday that Tim Schmidt called 911 right away. The officer then immediately responded. He was one of the first officers on the scene. Clearly, she is still undergoing the emotion and experiencing the excitement of what had occurred based on the officer's testimony and what we heard yesterday.
All right, and so I'm going to overrule your objection, Mr. Yohn. Again, finding such testimony is under a hearsay exception.
Sergeant Lohmeyer, can you tell us what she said she did once she got to her residence?
Yeah. She tried to get away from him. She got out of the car and locked the garage door before he entered. She's trying to lock him out.
Was he able to get inside?
Yeah, she said he kicked the door in.
Did she also indicate that inside of the residence that she had been sexually assaulted or raped?
Yes.
Did she say how that had occurred?
Yes.
How did that occur according to what she told you?
Well, it started with threats. He had rummaged. She said he had rummaged through the drawers and the cabinets in the house and found a knife and threatened her with a knife. She said that he was upset about not getting more money at the house, and she said that he put his penis in her vagina, and it was.
Did she say where this had happened at in the house?
Yeah, in the living room, on the chair in the living room.
Sergeant Lohmeyer, we're going to put up People's Exhibit 41. Sergeant Lohmeyer, when you said that chair, was this the chair that I'm pointing to? It's a green and white checkered chair that she indicated where this had occurred?
Yes.
And when you came into the residence, was she sitting near that chair?
Yes.
Where was she sitting near that chair? On the floor or on a piece of furniture?
Mm-hmm. So on the floor in front of that plaid green chair.
So right in this area?
Yes.
And I'm pointing for the record right in front of the chair here in the blanket.
Mm-hmm.
Floor. Also, Sergeant Lohmeyer, when you were there, did you observe what we see in the picture is a spray can right here to the left of the chair?
Yes.
As well as further into the kitchen area, a knife that was laying on the floor.
Yes.
And all of that was present in those locations when you arrived on scene that evening.
Yes.
Did she also, Ms. Lohman, also indicate to you there was another individual present with the white man with the scruffy hair?
Yes.
Did she know who that individual was?
No.
Did you ask her about that person as well to try to get information to find that person as well?
Yes.
What did she tell you about the person that was with that white man with the scruffy hair?
A shorter black female.
Thank you, officer. I have no other questions.
Mr. Yohn, care to cross-examine?
Yes, sir. Officer Lohmeyer, your report here I hold in my hand, obviously you know what it is. It's pretty minimal for what you've stated here on the record today. What would you say if I made the statement that some of the things you have relayed here today are contrary to maybe what the person...
Objection. Improper impeachment.
Mr. Yohn, I'll sustain the objection. You may rephrase the question, ask it in a different way.
If I stated that the declarant or victim, as some call her, her claims were...
Objection. Improper impeachment.
I'll sustain the objection. Mr. Yohn, you may ask the question in a different way.
If they would you bring back up exhibit, I believe it is, the living room with the chair? Apologize. Right there, yes, sir. In that exhibit 41, you see the chair, obviously. You stated that when you entered, the female CL was sitting with her legs displayed to the side. Could you give us some reference as to what side maybe her legs were displayed to? How she was sitting, where her legs were directed at? What?
Yeah, I guess I can't say which way her legs are pointed, but her legs were, both legs were off to one side of her body, sitting on the floor.
Most likely probably over towards the kitchen area, since there's
I don't know.
an ottoman and whatnot here.
I don't know.
Threats of violence to take the car. You stated she said there was threats of violence.
Mm-hmm.
Did she say anything about a weapon?
I don't remember.
And the white male, he was scruffy looking with a scruffy beard.
Yes.
Or scruffy facial hair. You also stated that he began rubbing her crotch, and this is what she's relayed to you. He began rubbing her crotch and then proceeded to take all of her jewelry, her cell phone, I believe it was glasses, specifically rings, necklaces, maybe, jewelry.
Could you ask the question again?
You stated that after rubbing her crotch, he proceeded to take her jewelry, glasses, phone, and whatnot. True?
Yeah, I said that she told me he took jewelry and a cell phone. That's what I said.
And you say she appeared to be in shock and disbelief.
Yes.
Obviously, I mean, I would think anybody would be. And upon entering the residence, who else was there at that time?
Besides officers?
Yes.
Initially, it was just me and Christina and Deputy Bowden.
And Mr. Schmidt wasn't there?
Family members started coming later. I don't remember which family members were there.
But it was just you, Christine, and Deputy Bowden in the beginning, correct?
Yeah, I'm the first responder, so we respond and we're the initial ones on scene.
Yes, thank you. Christine, Bowden, and Deputy Lohmeyer were the only ones in the house. Thank you. And she stated that it was a shorter black female
Yes.
that was alleged to be with the defendant, myself. Did she give any descriptions as to what the shorter black female looked like? Her hair, skin?
She said shorter black female. That was the end of it with me.
And approximately how long were you there, would you say?
I don't remember.
You couldn't give a rough estimate, an hour, half an hour? 40?
I don't remember.
And you just relayed a moment ago that other family members started arriving, correct?
Yes.
And briefly, if you remember how many, maybe female, male?
I don't remember.
You said you've been working in the force for approximately 18 years.
Yes.
It's a long time. Do you have record by any chance of the approximate time you arrived there?
It will be on my dispatch ticket.
Would approximately 6:30?
If that's on the dispatch ticket, is about that time.
And you, when officers arrive at a scene, they normally use their radio and acknowledge to dispatch that they have arrived, correct?
If the radios work,
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Any other measures that you took upon arriving other than just speaking to Lowman?
yeah. Well, really my role was to contact the investigators and bring them in on it too. So that's what I did. That was my action. And then we continued looking for a vehicle is what I did after that.
Secured the scene, obviously, or looked around the scene, maybe?
Could you ask me the question again? I'm not
I
sure.
apologize. Did you secure the scene? The home or the area around?
As much as possible with two people.
To the best of your recollection, obviously other officers work with you. To the best of your recollection, could you state the other officers that had arrived after you?
Oh. Officer, let's see, be Investigator Miller, Sergeant McMahon, Investigator Summers. There might have been others. That might be on the dispatch ticket as well.
And there's an important figure I'd like to inquire about. That would be the sheriff at the time, Sheriff Wagner.
Mm-hmm.
Was he there on the scene?
Yes.
And approximately, to the best of your recollection, how long after you arrived did he arrive? Or was it before?
No, he arrived fairly quickly after I arrived. I don't remember how many minutes.
All right. Were you at the scene when officers helped CL up off the floor?
I don't remember.
But she stayed on the floor until...
I don't remember.
Upon your arrival, what was CL wearing?
I don't remember.
Was she wearing clothes? Was she?
Yes.
She was fully clothed?
I would say that, I didn't see bra or underwear. So as far as I was concerned, she was clothed.
She was clothed. She had pants and...
I don't know what she was wearing. I didn't see bras or underwear.
Bottoms or tops, though. She had bottoms, like, for example...
I don't remember if she was wearing a dress, pants. I don't remember.
But you did say she was clothed.
She had some type of clothing on.
Thank you. Did you observe any blood when you arrived?
I didn't.
Thank you. And I want to ask you a very specific question. I don't know if I'll be objected to, but in your professional opinion, based on your history as a law officer, when one bleeds, it doesn't just stop and then start up at a later time again if you are just sitting in one spot. For example, Mr. Jones and Ms. Keck have nothing to do with this question. Mr. Lohmeyer, I did respect it if you keep your attention.
Objection. Proper opinion.
Sustained. Ask the witness questions, Mr. Yohn.
Your Honor, if I may approach the bench, please.
You may not. If you need him to look at something, you can give it to the bailiff.
No, I'd like to have it in bench.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to speak to the judge privately,
Do you need a discussion outside the hearing of the jury?
if possible.
Okay, we will take a brief recess for the jury to remain on the record. And Mr. Yohn, you wanted to address an issue
Your Honor,
outside the hearing of the jury.
Yes, Your Honor, I would have rather approached the bench. It would have been very brief.
Mr. Yohn, I discussed during pretrials, neither side is going to leave from behind their tables or approach any witness. If
Yes,
there's an
sir.
exhibit to go to a witness, it's to be handed to the bailiff. He will take it to the witness and then return it.
Your Honor, my issue, my objection is several times throughout these witness testimonies thus far, witnesses have looked directly over at the state's attorneys for guidance. Mr. Lohmeyer just did a moment ago. I'm the defendant, pro se litigant here asking the question. I don't believe that if I ask a question that is pertinent to this defense in this trial, that a witness need to look over at the state's attorney for direction. And it's happened several times, and it's uncalled for, Your Honor. That's all I have.
All right.
I would ask that a solution be put in place. It's happened several times.
Mr. Yohn, have you noticed either of the assistant state's attorneys giving an answer to the witness?
I tried to look and catch it this time, but no, I have not, Your Honor.
Okay, neither has the court. And so where the witness looks while answering questions, I cannot control. But unless the assistant state's attorneys are indicating some kind of answer that they should be giving, there's no reason to basically uphold your objection. So if the witness wants to look at you, look at the state, look at the judge, look at the ceiling, they're going to look where they're going to look, okay?
Yes,
but
sir.
Until it's shown that the assistant state's attorneys are somehow indicating what the answer should be given by that witness, again, there's no control over where the witness is looking.
Yes, sir.
Anything else before we bring
No.
the jury back?
No, thank you.
Back on the record with Mr. Yohn commencing with this cross-examination of this witness. Mr. Yohn, further questions?
Yes, sir, I still do. Deputy Lohmeyer, you stated you don't remember how long you were there or when you left the scene. Other than securing the scene, looking for suspects, making sure they were nowhere around, they were not of a potential threat, you proceeded no further, correct?
Can you ask me?
I'll ask it again, I apologize. Other than speaking to CL at the scene initially, securing the scene, as you and other officers did, you stated, and looking for suspects. You say you went and looked for suspects, correct?
Yes.
And where did you look for suspects at?
Really, at this point, I think every officer was looking for a stolen vehicle.
Yes.
So I was doing that as well.
And
And we were looking for a stolen vehicle with a suspect that had reportedly raped a woman. So really, every officer is kind of looking for that vehicle.
do you remember in what direction you went?
You know, I worked the county, so I traveled a lot of the county. I stuck typically closer to Quincy, but I don't remember exactly where I went.
And 18 years. It's a lot of time, takes a toll on one's memory. You pointed out some very specific details here today as far as the claims placed forth by CL or what she relayed to you. But you don't remember whether she was wearing clothes or what she was wearing, approximately what she was wearing.
Yeah.
You just know that she had clothes on. You don't remember the deputies fully. You remember some of them. I'll ask one more question in concern of the deputies arriving after you. Kelsey Miller, you stated that she arrived not too long after you arrived.
Yes.
Could you give an idea of that time?
I couldn't.
10 minutes, 3 minutes, half an hour, 20 minutes?
All I can say is within the hour, probably.
Within the hour. Appreciate it. And when you arrived, I believe I already touched base on this, but when you arrived, it was just you, Christine, and Deputy Bowden, correct?
As far as I knew. Okay.
All right. Mrs. Keck, any further questions, or Mr.?
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant Lohmeyer, it seemed like where you remember that somebody else may have been.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I remember that the husband was there.
And was that Tim Schmidt?
Tim.
You knew it was Tim.
I knew him as Tim.
No other questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any further cross, Mr. Yohn?
No, sir.
All right, you may step down. Thank you.
Your Honor, we'd ask that Sergeant Lohmeyer be released from his subpoena, please.
Hearing no objection, we will release Sergeant Lohmeyer from his witness subpoena. State have a further witness.
Your Honor, the people would call David Joseph.
All right, we have that witness. David Joseph. If you'd come forward to the circuit clerk and raise your right hand, she'll swear you in. Right over here.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right, you'd have a seat over here to my right in the witness stand. And if you would scoot up close to the microphone in front of you so everybody will be able to hear your answers to the questions. So, Ms. Keck, when you're ready with your questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you tell us your name, please?
David Joseph.
I'm going to have you pull that microphone a little bit closer to you. Can you tell us your name, please?
David Joseph.
Mr. Joseph, you live in Hannibal, Missouri, is that correct?
Correct.
On November 9th, 2021, where were you working?
At Phillips 66 gas station.
In Hannibal?
Yes.
On that particular evening, did two individuals show up to the gas station?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
Basis?
I'm sure a lot of individuals showed up to the gas station.
Okay, overruled. Laying the foundation.
Specifically, those individuals showed up in a white Toyota Avalon, is that correct?
Correct.
Also on that particular evening, was there video surveillance at the gas station?
Yes.
Was there specifically video surveillance around 8 o'clock in the evening that showed what was going on at the gas station?
Yes.
And that surveillance video captures the outside of the gas station, correct?
Yes.
It also captures the front door as people come into the gas station. And then there's a video surveillance camera that captures kind of back side of the gas station where there's some video gambling machines. Is that right?
Right.
Mr. Joseph, I'm holding up an envelope and it's marked People's Exhibit 8. Have you seen this before?
Yes.
And in fact, Mr. Jones and myself show you this this exhibit before court today.
Yes.
In People's Exhibit 18 is that the video surveillance from that night of November 9th, 2021.
Yes.
And did that video accurately capture what you saw that night of November 9th, 2021, about 8 o'clock, a little after 8 o'clock in the evening?
It did.
Your Honor, I'd ask that People's Exhibit 18 be admitted and published for the jury.
Any objection?
Yes, I do object if they're not going to play it, Your Honor.
They are going to play it.
Sir?
So is there an objection?
No.
Okay. So People's Exhibit 18 will be admitted without objection and may be published to the jury.
Mr. Joseph, we're first going to show the front, the camera pointing towards the actual gas station pumps, okay? And before we play it, up here in the right-hand corner, I'm pointing, it says 11-09-2021 08:08:55 p.m. Is that an accurate time, November 9, 2021, 8:08 and 55 seconds p.m.? Is that accurate for what had occurred and what you personally observed?
Yes.
And before we play, Mr. Jones, real quick, right here in front of the pumps, we see a street. Tell us what street that is.
I think that's Mark Twain Avenue.
In Hannibal.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can go ahead and play that part of the video. And Mr. Joseph, we see a white car that's just pulled up to the pumps. Is that the white car we're talking about?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph, as we were watching that, we were seeing individuals get out of that car and go inside the gas station. Is that correct?
Yes.
As we discussed, there's also a camera that catches that front door.
Correct.
And what we have here on the screen is this, the angle of the camera that shows that front door where we saw the individuals going in and out.
Yes.
If we can play that video now, please. Mr. Joseph, you also indicated.
Your Honor, if I may, I'd have to object real quick. I'd like to know where the full edition of that video is. That's not the full edition of what was just played. That's clipped to shorten that extremely, enough. As you saw, the male suspect, myself, come right in the door and right back out. That's not the actual video, Your Honor.
Mr. Yohn, I don't understand your objection.
Your Honor, I object to that video being clipped and cut, as a lot of things have been clipped and cut in this case. I have the video right here. I will find it, Your Honor, and I can surely approach and show it to you.
All right, so I'm going to overrule your objection. If you want to play a full video for the jury to watch, the state is simply showing and asking this witness about what they believe is important in the video. If you have it available, you can use that in cross-examination or as you see fit.
Yes, sir.
So objections overruled. Ms. Keck, you may continue.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Joseph, you indicated there's also a camera that captures these video machines over here. Is that right?
Right.
That we're seeing on the screen. And we see an individual here that's wearing a black hoodie and gray pants.
Right.
Tell us who that is.
That's me.
That's you. And part of your job, right, is just to kind of walk around and check on people, right?
Right.
And we see that you're going over here to this individual that's got something strapped over his shoulder. Was that the same individual, male individual that we just saw coming in and out of those front doors?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that the same male individual that you saw coming in and out of that white car?
Correct.
When you went over to that individual, did you have any conversation with him?
Briefly.
Was that because of something you saw?
Yeah, it was a Ziploc bag of money.
And did that concern you seeing a Ziploc bag of money?
Yes. Yeah, it was a lot of money.
In fact, were you worried about the man that something could happen to him?
Yeah, like if he was in like where I grew up at, I'm like, hey, you could have a problem if somebody saw you with that, you know?
And was that a Ziploc bag of money that he had out of that purse?
Yes.
Mr. Jones, if we can play that video. Mr. Joseph, that male that you can see that we were just talking about, that you talked to over at that video machine with the big wad of cash in the bag, describe him for you. It's kind of hard to see how he looked. Can you describe him for the jury?
I know he had the hat on. He had a red beard.
Was he white or black?
He's a white guy.
Mr. Joseph, I'm going to have the security officer here hand you what we've marked as People's Exhibit 76. Is that a screenshot of the video that one of the videos that we saw, the second video Mr. Jones played of that white male with the red beard coming into the gas station?
This is him.
And you see also on that picture the purse that he had over his shoulder. Is that correct?
Correct.
We can put that up on. Your Honor, I'd ask that People's Exhibit 76 be admitted and published for the jury, please.
Any objection, Mr. Yohn?
No objection.
All right, People's Exhibit 76 is admitted without objection, may be published for the jury.
And it's a little pixelated in here, but you can see on here, you can see, as you described it, the white male, the red beard, and the satchel over his shoulder. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is that how he looked that night at November 9th, 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
Was he also that night wearing what we see here, these white shoes?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no other questions.
Mr. Yohn, any cross-examination?
Yes, I do. You stated yes in reference to showing up in a white Toyota Avalon, true?
Yes.
You didn't go out in the parking lot and observe the decals on that car, did you? Or
No.
you obviously can't see the lettering from the camera, correct?
Correct.
Though it was the car. You're obviously here to testify to what you observed at a convenience store, true?
True.
I want to ask you a question concerning these matters. Do you know anything, any facts or anything about the case in reference what it is about?
No, other than what I saw.
And that's the case there?
I don't know.
You don't know what the case pertains to?
Other than what I saw at the gas station.
There's a crime that was supposed to have taken place before this. You don't know what that is.
Objection, asked and answered.
I'll overrule the objection. He may answer if he knows.
Explain that again. Say that again.
You wouldn't know anything about why we were here today, the charges that we're here today.
No, other than what happened at the gas station.
So, you were on video, obviously, several different times, all these clips, and you were also on an officer's video.
Objection. Assumes facts not in evidence.
All right, so we need to stick with what's in evidence at this point, Mr. Yohn, so I will sustain that objection.
Yes, sir. You're not lying, are you?
Objection.
Sustained.
The witness knows what we're here on today.
Objection, Your Honor.
I will sustain. Mr. Yohn, you're to ask the witness questions. That's what cross-examination involves.
Do you remember approximately what time that was?
I just know it was nighttime.
You did not know? And you state you saw a Ziploc bag of money, correct?
Bag of money, yes.
A bag of money, or was it a Ziploc bag?
Plastic bag,
It was a plastic bag?
I believe so.
Anywhere on that video, can we play the video again, please? The video of the entrance into the gas station?
The one where he's going in and out.
Yes. The one where the suspect, alleged suspect, myself, is going in and out.
This one?
It's on the screen.
Yes. You can cut that off. And if you would, go to the gambling machine video.
Your Honor, does the court want me to stop the video at this point?
That's what Mr. Yohn's requesting you to do. If you would do so to assist him, please.
Good. You just reviewed that video again, correct?
Correct.
And did you see a plastic bag in that video?
No.
A Ziploc bag?
No.
In reference to the first video, the defendant entering the gas station, you were behind the desk, correct?
Correct.
And the defendant obviously went directly to the left. This video that you just were showing, the actual happening, the actual real time, the defendant was in there a lot longer than that, true?
True.
You approached the defendant or the area that the defendant was in after entering the gas station, true?
True.
And you did not see a plastic bag or a Ziploc bag full of money in either of them.
Not immediately.
When did you see it? Because
As after he was there and he pulled it out of the bag that he had around his person.
sir, we're directly on camera. And you just stated you saw no plastic bag full of money. I need a direct answer.
Your Honor, he just answered the question.
Thank you.
Objection, I'll sustain the objection. Follow up with questions, Mr. Yohn.
And I'm not going to go into your criminal history. It's not extensive.
Objection.
Reynolds.
Your Honor, there isn't. Mr. Joseph does not have any criminal history.
Then I will be sustaining the objection.
He doesn't? Beg to differ.
And Mr. Yohn, if you have evidence of such, then you'll need to attempt to impeach this witness with such. But I'll direct the jury to disregard your follow-up statement as it is not evidence.
Your Honor, I'm not going to take the time to waste the jurors' time at this moment. I did receive such
Objection, Your Honor.
And again, Mr. Yohn, if you
Yes, sir.
have the evidence to impeach the witness, then you are given time and the
I do
leeway
not
to
wish
do
to.
so.
I do not wish to impeach him, Your Honor. I wish to ask him a question in reference to criminals. You've seen criminals in your lifetime, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. You said where you live, or common knowledge, city, Georgia, Atlanta. You've seen criminals in your lifetime. You saw two suspects in them videos. Two suspects enter that jail, or excuse me, I apologize, enter that gas station. The first one, she was wearing a pink hoodie. A pink hoodie. How did she appear?
I guess pretty normal.
She appeared normal? She didn't appear rambunctious or maybe even high.
No, she did seem how to put it, uneasy towards the end of the video. Like she was anxious.
And the other person who you see on your screen right now in a pause spot, he is holding cash in his hand. He was carefree. He was normal. Was he not? Or you saw him in the video.
I don't Talking about as from my point of view,
Yes.
I guess.
Yes. All right. Your Honor, I have no more questions for this man here.
You redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Jones, if you could put on the screen what a screenshot that we have pulled from the second video, I believe actually Mr. Yohn was just referring to. In this video, when you pause it, right at this point that we have on the screen, you actually do see, as Mr. Yohn noted, the individual pulling something out of the purse that appears to be cash in a bag, correct?
Correct.
And when you were over at those video poker machines with that white male with the red beard, you also could see him pulling something out of his purse that you can't see in the video because his back is to the video, correct?
Right.
Thank you, sir. No other questions.
Any further cross, Mr. Yohn?
Yes, Your Honor. If you'll play the video of the gambling machines again, please. And you pause right there for a moment. What is defendant doing at that machine?
Putting money into the dollar bill slot.
Putting money into the bill slot, correct? And he walked directly in, obviously, and went straight to the machine, true?
Yes.
And he directly proceeded to put money in.
Right.
You cannot see his other hand. You know that he had a bag on him, correct?
Correct.
Correct to both questions? I apologize.
What was the first part of the other question?
You cannot see his other hand.
Right.
And you know that he had a bag on him.
Right.
correct? That bag was not clear, nor was it Ziploc.
Right.
And he's directly at the machine putting cash in.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be cash from just a bag or potentially a pocket even, true?
No, the person pulled it out of the bag.
You're standing to the right. The camera comes from the right.
It's just the part of the video probably before he pulled it out of the bag.
And it's not a Ziploc bag or a clear plastic bag, is it?
I believe it was a plastic bag that he pulled out of the brown or gold bag.
Thank you. That's it, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Can this witness be discharged?
Yes, Your Honor. That would be our request.
All right, so you are discharged from your witness subpoena and free to go. Thank you. You've been at it approximately an hour and a half. This may be a good chance to take a recess for 10 minutes. We'll recess until 10:30.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
Mr. Yohn, you objected to the calling of Keith Kinney. What's the basis of the objection?
Your Honor, the basis of the objection is I'm entitled to discovery disclosure of pertinent information that the witness intends to testify to. I've been disclosed discovery statements. However, I have received none from a Keith Kinney. I have that portion of the documents right here. I have nothing from Keith Kinney. That would be a Brady violation. Appeal issue.
Jones, Ms. Keck, care to respond to the objection?
Your Honor, Mr. Kinney was part of the U.S. Marshal team, made the arrest of the defendant. He did not provide a report. He's not required to provide a report. He did provide a report to the marshal that committed that arrest. That marshal was not available to testify. Mr. Kinney is. We are calling Mr. Kinney for his observations of the arrest he was part of. He's going to testify based on his observations, not on anything else other than his observations. Again, he did not have to write a report. He's not required to write a report, and And if he doesn't write a report, there's nothing for us to tender to the defendant, and there is no Brady violation. We've gone through this once before with this defendant at the first trial, and the courts, we've dealt with this before. So he's raising this again. It's been addressed by the court already, and we've explained to Mr. Yohn that there is no report for us to tender, and this court has been made aware of that as well. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Yohn, I'm overruling your objection. The state has explained why there would be no report from Keith Kinney. However, you will have the right to cross-examine Mr. Keith Kinney here after the state has conducted their direct examination. Speed up over the microphone so we have. Okay. Mr. Jones, we're ready with questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you tell me your name, please?
Keith Kinney.
Mr. Kinney, what do you do for a living?
I'm now retired. I was with the Illinois Department of Corrections for 31 years and 10 months, the last 10 years of that being assigned to the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force.
As a member of the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, what were your responsibilities?
Apprehending fugitives with warrants.
And you said you did that for approximately 10 years?
Yes, sir.
Were you working for the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force in November of 2021?
Yes, sir.
And in November, specifically November 9th and 10th of 2021, was there a specific person that you were looking for?
Yes, sir.
Who was that person?
Bradley Yohn, City on.
At that point, did you just have a name, Bradley Yohn?
Yes, I didn't know him other than the name.
And you've already identified him, but the Bradley Yohn that was eventually taken into custody, is that the same person who's sitting here in court?
Correct.
Your Honor, we'd ask the record that the witnesses identified the defendant.
Will so reflect.
On November 10th, 2021, did you receive information about where the defendant might have been located?
We received information that he was from the Springfield area. The guys on the task force from Quincy were working this side of the state, so my team and myself decided to stay in Springfield and work some angles over there.
At some point, was there an address that was associated with the defendant that you learned that the defendant was either at that address or might be at that address?
That is correct.
And that address was 1906 East Cornell Street in Springfield, is that right?
That's correct.
You went to that address to attempt to apprehend the defendant?
Myself.
When I say you and other members of the U.S. Marshals
Yes,
team.
correct.
And was the defendant, in fact, apprehended at that location?
Yes, he was in the backyard.
Do you do glass water or anything?
If he has to.
Thank you, Your Honor. When you arrived at that location, was the defendant already in handcuffs?
He was. He was prone down on the ground in handcuffs.
When you say prone, lying on the ground?
Mine, yes, on his stomach on the ground.
When he was lying on the ground in handcuffs, did you notice anything about him, anything that he was wearing or had on him?
He had a purse that was wrapped, the strap was wrapped over the shoulder, and then when the handcuffs were, I did not handcuff him, but when I walked around there, he was laying there, the purse was through the handcuffs. So
Did you cut that purse off of him?
I did. I pulled my pocket knife out and I cut the purse off.
That purse, did it appear to be a brown or gold colored purse?
Yeah, beigeish brown, I would call it.
And did you look at the items that were in that purse as well?
I did.
Your Honor, if I could have Ms. Keck pull up People's Exhibit 59 on the screen. It's already been introduced today. Up on the screen is now People's Exhibit 59. On the upper left-hand corner, you see a
items on the right, set of keys, American Builder Supply check made payable to the order of Tina, and a voter ID card for Christina F. Lohman at 4300 North Button Road. All those items were in that purse, is that right?
That's correct.
The purse that was on the defendant's shoulder.
Yes, sir.
Up now on the screen is People's 62, photograph of that same purse looking down into that purse, is that right?
Yes, that's great.
And on the right side of the purse, you see a strap that's been cut. You told us you cut that strap, is that right?
I in fact did cut that, yes.
And inside that purse is a plastic bag, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And if we go to People's 63, please. And also inside that purse was a large amount of U.S. currency, is that right?
Yes, I didn't count it, but I could see there was currency.
When the defendant was arrested, did he also have some other property on him?
Yes, he had some women's, what I believe to be women's jewelry, and so he was handcuffed, but he hadn't been patted for weapons yet. So I was the second guy closest to him, so I began the pat search.
And when you patted him down, did you find some things in his pockets as well?
I did.
And we'll, just 1 second. So what I'm going to have Ms. Keck do is now pull up People's Exhibit 57. And up on the screen is People's Exhibit 57. You told us that when you arrested the defendant, when the defendant was arrested, he had what you believe to be some women's jewelry on his person.
Correct.
This watch and this chain, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
You also said you patted him down, you found some property in his pocket, is that right?
That's correct.
In his pocket, People's Exhibit 60, is this some of the items that you found?
Yes.
And specifically in the middle of that picture, is there a silver and white rosary?
Yes.
61. And on the screen here, People's Exhibit 61, is that same rosary?
Yes, that's the same.
Found in his pocket?
In his pocket. I pulled it out separately.
Going to ask that the bailiff approach the witness with People's Exhibit 64 and 65. Do you recognize the person in both those pictures?
Yes, I do.
Is that a photograph or those photographs of the defendant, his full face, and then a picture of his entire body showing the watch and jewelry and also what he was wearing when he was arrested?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we'd ask that people 64 and 65 be admitted into evidence.
Motion.
No, Your Honor. Exhibit 64 and 65 are admitted without objection and should be published in the journal.
Here on the screen, we have People's Exhibit 64. Marshall Kinney, retired Marshall, sorry. Marshall Kinney, the photograph that we have on People's 64, is that what the defendant looked like on November 9th, 2021, after he was arrested?
Exactly.
And People's 65? Again, is that what he looked like after he was arrested?
Yes, sir.
Wearing that watch and that bracelet
He was.
and those white shoes on his feet? Thank you, Marshal. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Cross-examination, Mr. Yohn.
Sir. Retired Marshal Kenny, you did not write a report yourself, did you?
No, sir.
Is there a reason you may not have written a report?
It wasn't my case.
You positively identified myself as defendant here in court. However, have you ever seen him without a beard?
Seen you without a beard?
Yes.
No.
It was that easy to identify him with loss of hair and no beard.
Yes.
You state that I was apprehended at 1906 East Cornell, and you were obviously doing surveillance, correct?
I was actually at a store called Jamal's, which was a couple blocks away.
Yes, sir.
Can you keep going? Or?
Yes.
We had information that you had stopped there that day, so I was reviewing video footage with the owner of the store, and during that time, a call came out that you were spotted in the backyard exiting a camper. At that point, my partner and myself drove over there. The time I got there, you were already in handcuffs on the ground in the backyard.
And you stated that you observed the items in the purse, or you looked through them briefly.
Yes, sir.
Can you state them items for the record again, just based off your memory?
There was money, there was some checks, I think there's some other jewelry.
You didn't pull them out and take photographs of them, did you?
No, my initial search was to make sure you didn't have any weapons on you.
Would any of your officers in the U.S. Marshals surveillance team that were there that day, would they have taken any pictures?
I don't believe they would have.
You state that you reached in my pockets to pull items out to obviously check to see if I had weapons.
Sir.
And you stated that you pulled a rosary out of my pockets. True?
True.
And what condition was that rosary in?
It seemed intact.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Ordinarily, if a person had a rosary, wouldn't they be wearing it?
Ordinarily, I would think.
And as you said, it was intact. If a person was wearing, or if a person had a rosary that was not intact, probably wouldn't keep it in their immediate possession, just to hold it true, based off just your general.
I would think if it was broke, maybe you keep it in your pocket, but if it was intact, you'd wear it around your neck.
Exactly, and it was intact. It appeared to be intact, as you said.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor. I rest.
No, thank you, Your Honor. We would release the marshal from this. Yeah, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. We have a other witness.
We do, Your Honor.
Who's that?
Brady Field, Your Honor.
Our deputy circuit clerk, she will swear you in. Right over here.
do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, can you tell us your name, please?
Randy Ray Field.
What do you do for a living, Ms. Field?
I'm retired from the Illinois State Police.
What did you used to do for the Illinois State Police?
I was a senior master trooper with the Illinois State Police. For the last 11 and a half years, I was a crime scene investigator.
Can you tell me what a crime scene investigator is, what your job is as a crime scene investigator?
Crime scene investigators for the Illinois State Police. We're all sworn troopers. We process crime scenes. We process them throughout the state. We have regions and sections that we do that with. We process for local agencies. We are getting specific training, certifications, and equipment, and we're free to use for the local agencies. State agencies have to use us. And I will process, document, and collect items of evidence from various scenes, being property crimes, such as a burglary, or crimes against person, like a battery or a home invasion. In a death investigation, there should be a variety of different things. I'll collect those items. I'll give that back to the agency that's investigating it, or I'll transport it to the labs which is our ISP labs. Again, free, they just have to wait on the results.
Fair to say that some local agencies don't have crime scene investigators.
Correct.
And so the Illinois State Police and you, when you were working there, were there to help support the local agencies who aren't able to have a crime scene investigator because either the county board hasn't given them money in their budget for that, or they're not able to do that.
Yes, sir.
In this case, the Adams County Sheriff's Office did not have a crime scene investigator. Is that right? To the best of your knowledge?
That's correct.
And they asked the Illinois State Police, and specifically you, to help with the documentation of that crime scene.
Yes, sir.
Is part of that to take photographs of various things?
Yes, sir.
And did you take multiple photographs, both at the scene and then later on of a vehicle that was later recovered?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, if I could have the bailiff approach the witness with People's Exhibits 53, 54, 55, 56, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, and 75. I'm going to ask you to look at all those photographs and tell me when you've had a chance to go through those photographs. Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, sir.
Are those all photographs that you took at various points in your investigation?
Yes, sir.
Do those photographs accurately show what it is they're intended to show?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we'd ask that those exhibits then be introduced into evidence and be referred to through the course of the investigation or the course of the questioning, along with the other exhibits that have previously been included.
Mr. Yohn, any objection to People's Exhibits 53 through 56?
No objection, Your Honor.
Any objection to People's Exhibits 68 through 72?
Objection?
No, please.
Any objection to the People's Exhibit 75?
Ms. Field, again, People's Exhibit 35, this is a photograph that you took,
Yes, sir.
and it shows basically the entrance into the garage, fair to say?
Yes, sir.
People's 36. Can you tell us what we're looking at in People's 36?
That is in front of the garage. So the garage in the front of the house is on the east side. The front of it is east. That is directly east of the garage. And you see
The tire marks?
the tire marks in the, so the tire marks going through the grass, and that, from what I understand, struck the shrub, and then goes out into the drive.
People's 37, the interior of that garage?
Yes, sir.
And People's 38, this would be the door going from the garage into the house.
Yes, sir.
Did you notice damage to that door?
Yes, sir.
And you also notice shoe prints on that door?
Yes, sir.
We'll come back to the shoe prints in a minute. People's 39. Again, the interior door showing that damage?
Yes, sir.
And damage on the wall as well?
Yes, sir.
People's 40. Close-up of that damage on the wall?
Yes, sir.
People's 41, is this the interior of the house?
Yes, sir.
And we see a can and a knife, correct?
Yes, sir.
And both that can and knife were later collected. We'll talk about those in a minute. Next slide, please. Again, a close-up of that can in People's 42. Also, a red substance on the floor.
Yes, sir.
People's 80, a different view of that, showing that can at temp marker 5 and at temp marker 6, that red substance stain on the floor.
Yes, sir.
People's 81 is a close-up, shot-down view showing, again, that red substance on the floor.
Yes, sir.
People's 43 on the screen shows the knife that was recovered at temp marker 4.
Yes, sir.
And again, a close-up of that knife and the temp marker.
Yes, sir.
And when we say temp marker, we're talking about this yellow identification. Can you explain why we use temp markers?
So, especially in a large scene, it can get lost. I take hundreds of pictures and I collect a lot of stuff. So, for certain things I'm going to collect, I'll put a temp marker, which I like to use numbers. For other things, I might use letters. So, then I go through the scene, and as I go through, I try to make the numbers flow. So, as I collect items, like temp marker number 1 was a pair of pants. I also put that in the definition, the description on the evidence sticker, so that as I go through, our system, the Beast, will number the exhibits a certain way, and I can't help that. The agency is allowed to renumber those exhibits their way, but that temp marker and that description will always be with that item of evidence. So
it's fair to say,
describe.
if an item of evidence goes from you to the agency to the lab, if it's analyzed at the lab too, each one of those things may have a different agency number associated.
Exhibit number.
Exhibit number.
Yes, sir.
And the temp marker is there to help us keep track of where everything is.
Yes, sir.
People's 45, again, is that can at temp marker 5.
Yes, sir.
People's 46 is a close-up of that same can that was recovered.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what we're looking at in People's Exhibit 47?
Temp marker 8 and temp marker 9. They are both marking footwear impressions on the floor.
So when you
dust.
When you examined the crime scene, you were able to see foot marks in that hole?
Footwear impressions.
Footwear impressions?
Yes, sir.
And you documented those, and we'll see some photos of those later on.
Yes, sir.
People's 48 is a photograph inside a bedroom, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And this documents what you saw when you took that photograph.
Yes, sir.
People's 49 is in the basement of that house, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And shows a gray door to a safe.
Yes, sir.
Equals 50. Again, a different view of that same door.
Yes, sir.
And in the course of your investigation, you did something with that door as well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Correct?
Yes, sir.
From People's Exhibit 42 that we now have on the screen, there is a can that is located on that screen, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was recovered by you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was placed in this brown paper evidence bag.
Yes, sir.
You can see on the front of it that it says 1 metal 409 spray can recovered from floor of kitchen living room, correct?
That's not my sticker.
But
The other one's my sticker.
that's your sticker. Sorry. 1 metal 409 spray can recovered from floor of kitchen living room marked with tint marker number 5.
Yes.
After you recovered this can, what did you do with it? Where did you send it?
I placed it in that bag, and at the end of processing this scene, all the evidence went back to the agency.
When you processed or when you got that can, were there certain things that you were interested in it being tested for?
Yes, sir.
And tell me what that was.
So due to the nature of this situation, I was advised that particular can was used. So there was a chance for DNA and fingerprints to be taken from that can. So replacing it in paper protects it for DNA and has it shielded. So when it went to the lab, I was going to have the lab decide what would be the best way to process, because if it's processed for latent prints, then that could damage for DNA. So if DNA needs to be done first, it needs to be done, but then they need to know not to damage the fingerprints.
DNA and fingerprints.
Yes, sir.
And when you collected it, are there steps that you take to make sure that there's no cross-contamination, things like that?
Yes, sir.
Wear gloves, things like that?
Yes, sir.
And you did that in this case?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we did ask that People's Exhibit 3 be introduced to that.
No objection, Your Honor.
People's Exhibit 3 will be admitted without objection.
People's Exhibit 50 is that safe door that we talked about. Can you tell me what you did with regard to the safe door in this investigation?
So the safe door I marked as tip marker 13. I used oblique lighting, which is side lighting at an angle, to look for any obvious fingerprints on that door and around the door. But due to this incident, I was advised that there was a lot of pulling and maybe manipulation of that door, which would have rubbed fingerprints. So I swabbed the handle for touch DNA.
Didn't find any fingerprints,
Correct.
but you swabbed the door for DNA.
Yes, sir.
Tell me what that process is, how you swab a door for DNA.
So I have gloves. Normally, what I normally do whenever I swab for DNA is I'll open up a package, a fresh package of swabs. It looks like large Q-tips. There's 2 in the package. I'll open up the top of it and just expose the Q-tip aspect of that swab, and I'll moisten one of those Q-tip tips with distilled water, and I use fresh distilled water. I just open it, pour this. I put the drops on there, and I rub both those swabs on that handle. And then I place that, the tips of those Q-tips in a envelope. I'll snap them off and seal it up so I've never come in contact with those. And then I place those, that in another envelope and seal that up and place a sticker on it.
And I'm holding People's Exhibit 5. Does that appear to be, here the envelope with your sticker on it that says envelope containing swabs, 2 swabs of safe handle marked with tint marker 13?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we'd ask that People's Exhibit 5 to be introduced to the evidence.
Objection?
No.
People's Exhibit 5 is admitted. Objection.
I'm not going to put it back up on the screen, but we saw that picture of the blood that was on the floor by that green chair. Do you remember that photograph?
Yes, sir.
Red substance.
Blood-like substance.
Did you also swab that location?
Yes, sir.
And you used the same steps that you just described?
Yes, sir.
And you put it in an envelope, and does that appear to be that envelope?
Yes, sir.
It says envelope containing RBLS, swabs recovered from RBLS, red blood-like substance.
Yes, sir. I'm not allowed to call blood.
On the floor of the kitchen and living room, marked with tint marker number 6.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we'd ask that People's Exhibit 79 be admitted into evidence.
Sorry, you got People's Exhibit 79? Correct?
79, correct.
All right. The objection? Exhibit 79 is admitted with no objection.
During the course of your investigation, did you learn that investigators were looking for a particular car?
Yes, sir.
And that car was eventually found
Yes, sir.
in Springfield, Illinois?
Yes, sir.
Did you do anything with regard to that car and specifically fingerprints?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what you did with regard to that car.
I'm the one that processed that vehicle, so initially I took photographs of that car. Reference the fingerprints. The exterior of the car, I used black powder, and I dusted for prints on each of the doors, including the trunk.
I want to show you what's been introduced into evidence as People's Exhibit 51. Have that on the screen. And does that appear to be the car that you processed in relationship to this case?
Yes, sir.
A white Toyota Camry, license plate ABS 1006.
Yes, sir.
Toyota Avalon. And you shared with us that you processed it, the outside for fingerprints.
Yes, sir.
Again, explain that process for me, how you do that.
So specifically for this car, it was locked, so we were going to have to use some manipulations to try to get in. So I wanted to try to get all the evidence from the exterior that I could before we tried to do that. So what I did was I used black powder, and I actually dust a thin coat of black powder on those areas of the driver's door, the back passenger door, the trunk, the back passenger door, and the front passenger door. In those areas on top and around the top of the hood area of those doors for latent prints.
You dusted for prints.
Yes.
When you dusted the car for prints, were you able to find some prints in the car?
Yes, sir.
Now, your job is not to analyze those prints or to confirm who those prints belong to or anything. That's the last job, right?
Correct. I'm
Your
just a
job,
collector.
you find them.
Yes, sir.
And in this case, you found some prints, and if you could pull up People's 54. People's 54 is the driver's side of that white Toyota Avalon that we previously saw with the license plate. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Can you got your laser pointer? Can you show me where you found prints on this car, on this side?
So on this side, if you see the dark stuff, that is all the black powder. But when I find prints, I like to use a dry erase marker, and on this case it was black, and I will actually mark them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and on 5 is over here. And then I do more photographs because a lot can happen between trying to lift them. So then I'll take analytical photos, which are in its own value evidence.
And did you also find, if you go to the next slide, again, here we see the driver's side door handle, is that right?
That's number 2.
And if you go to the next slide, People's 56, we're looking at the area between the passenger and back seat.
This one is, I think, number 8, and it's a phone.
And people's,
Oh, correction, that's number 9. Is it 9 or 8? There'll be a number on it, but yeah, that's on the passenger side. There's a palm here, and there's some prints here. I had 9 lifts total.
and you collected those lifts and processed them for them to be sent to the lab, is that right?
Yes, sir.
I have here in my hand People's Exhibit 13. It's one sealed envelope containing 9 white back cards bearing developed lane prints recovered from the exterior of that vehicle. Is that correct? Is that
Yeah, that's not my sticker. I think mine's on the back.
It's a good thing we have tint markers.
With a DVD with JPEG and RAW images.
So you take photographs of them as well?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we'd ask that People's 13 be admitted into evidence.
Objection? No. People's Exhibit 13 is admitted without objection.
When you processed the scene, you also shared with us that you found footprint or foot impressions, shoe impressions, at various locations on the door and in the hall. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me the process of collecting those. How do you collect those?
So the footwear impressions bearing on the substrate that they're made out of, these are dust, and the object that they're on matters on how I'm going to collect them. In this particular scene, I again photographed everything analytically, which means if I don't lift those prints, these images are of evidential value that the lab can process those for those impressions. But I not only took images, but I lifted these using gel lifts. So initially here, I'm just documenting that there's footwear impressions on this door, and there I am, as a ghost. Shining, again, the oblique light, the side lighting, that just totally enhances those footwear impressions.
And you said you took a gel lift. What's a gel lift?
So a gel lift comes in 2 different colors. They can be either white or black. In this particular scene, I used a black gel lift, which is basically like a rubber-coated, sticky, kind of a rectangular substance, kind of like a rubbery tile. And over the top of that, there's a clear cover. You peel off that clear cover, and then you place that gel on the object. It works great for dust. So in this case, I stuck it to the door and smoothed out the air bubbles, left it on there for just a couple of seconds, and then I lifted it off.
And you did that with these 2 impressions?
Yes, sir.
And if you go to the next slide. And People's 68, that's a close-up of those 2 impressions?
Yes, sir.
69. And again, this impression as well?
Yes, sir.
You talked about doing it in an analytical way so that there's some evidentiary value. Is this one of the photographs that you're talking about showing that it could be used by the lab because it has the scale on it?
I use a scale, and I also use a special lens on my camera, a Mac lens, and there's no distortion with that. So it's not like the 55 that normal people are just taking pictures. It's a 1-for-1 lens, so every image with it is equal as long as it's 90 degrees. And with these circles here, you can tell that it was taken at 90-degree angle.
You shared with us the gel lift. Is this one of the gel lifts that you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
The black substance that had the sticky substance, and you pull it off the wall. This was it. Looks like tent marker 2. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So it would have been one of the ones from the door.
It was the one next to the handle.
The one next to the handle that we just saw.
Yes, sir.
At the bottom right, it says Reebok, right?
Yes, sir.
Next slide, please. And then tent marker 9 and 8. Tell us about tent marker 9 and 8.
So tent marker 9 and 8 are marking 2 footwear impressions that I was going to lift. And if you look, right here, there's a little mark here, and there's one right there, little bitty black marks. And I think there's one right here, and one right here. Whenever I'm walking through a scene initially, so I don't destroy any evidence, I'll mark suspected footwear that might be potential evidence. Again, with a dry erase marker. And I'll just put a little mark there so I don't step on that later. So those are documenting footwear impressions I'm getting ready to lift, or document.
Again, this would be a close-up of tent marker 8 that we just saw, showing that dust that you talked about for the footwear impression, correct?
And you can see the black marks I put on the floor.
Oh, you can, both sides. Equals 72. Again, this would be tent marker 8, like you see in the upper right-hand corner, and it's the footwear impression that we just saw on the floor, right?
Yes, sir.
But in the gel lift pattern.
Yes, sir. And with the oblique lighting, sometimes the gel lift makes it pop a little bit better.
And on the bottom heel of that shoe, we see the word Reebok again. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, it's not your job to compare the shoe to anything else.
No, sir.
It's not your job to analyze the impression or anything like that. Your job is just to collect.
Yes, sir.
And that's what you collected, and that's what you did on that day.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Oh, I apologize, Your Honor. People's Exhibit 4, you collected, these are the gel prints and the footwear impressions that you collected from the crime scene that day, correct?
In the DVD where they're all in JPEG images. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we ask that People's Exhibit 4 be introduced and read anyway.
Objection?
No objection.
People's Exhibit 4 is admitted without objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. I apologize. Now I have no more questions.
Mr. Yohn? Any questions?
Ms. Field, it's that easy, isn't it? It's that simple, this procedure, correct?
I would not call it easy.
I wouldn't either. What I'd call it even harder is to find only one footprint.
Objection, Your Honor.
All the people
Argumentative.
in this home.
Mr. Yohn, we're in objection. You need to cease with the question while we address it.
Apologize, Your Honor, thank you. These are the only footprints you found in this home,
Mr.
correct?
Yohn, I've got to address the objection before we go forward, please. So, Mr. Jones, what's the grounds for the objection?
It's argumentative, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Apologize, Ms. Field. These are the impressions and the prints you've lifted, correct?
Correct.
No more other than this.
Not correct.
Okay, could you tell us, could you shed some light on the other ones that you may have?
He did not show tip marker 9. That was a different impression than the Nike. So I did lift a different one besides that Reebok.
You lifted at Nike. Do you remember?
I don't know if it was a Nike or not, but it was a tip marker 9. So.
I'll give you one more. Tip marker 9, it is the exact same impression as tent marker 8. Your Honor, I don't have the ability to show it right now, but I have it right here on me. It's directly next to tent marker 8. It's the exact same one. It's no different.
Objection, Your Honor. Witnesses, the defendant is seeking to testify.
Yes, this witness questions, Mr. Yohn.
Tent marker.
The answers.
Tent marker 9 and tent marker 8. Them were the only impressions you lifted as far as feet are considered.
Objection, Your Honor. It's not what witness testified to. She also testified she took gel prints from the door where the door was kicked in.
Sustain the objection. You want to rephrase the question.
I apologize again. I'm obviously not a professional. You only, is it true that you only lifted an abundance of prints, but only from one brand of a shoe?
No.
Could you possibly shed some light on the other, how many different brands you lifted?
Well, like I said, if you'll look at the gel on tent marker 9, there is a difference. And if you look in the tent marker 8, with the Nike, there's actually another impression over the top of that.
And throughout the whole scene, as you said, you do it in an analytical way. Throughout the whole scene, these were the only prints you lifted.
Yes.
Ms. Field, you arrived approximately, I believe it was 9:01 or 9:08 p.m. to the scene.
I arrived at 8:59.
8:59. Okay, I apologize. Not too much of this. Were you provided with the information of who had been in the home at that time? Or how many?
During the incident or after the incident? Are you talking about both?
Both, all together.
Yes.
And to your best remembrance, do you remember about how many? I wouldn't ask for a specific number. I know myself. I just wish that you'd give a range of number of people that were.
I was told that there was a male and female suspects. The female victim, her husband came home. Some of her children came after the incident. At least I would assume more than one, I don't know. And then there would be officers that walked through the scene, some deputies. And that's who I know that was on scene at the time. Or before I arrived on scene.
That's approximately 15 people. And these are still the only prints you lifted.
I wouldn't say 15, but yes, those are still the only prints that I lifted, yes.
And were there any other deputies who arrived on the scene during your time there?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember by any chance?
I had them stay outside. The one that did the walkthrough with me was Deputy Ruth Bode. She's the one that did the initial. I don't have groups that come in with me. She was there initially at the scene, and so she initially walked through the scene with me under my direction.
And if you would give me 1 second. You did ask a deputy who all had been in the home upon your arrival, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the deputy obviously said several.
Objection, Your Honor, as to what the officer said.
Sustain the objection.
There were several.
That would be an interpretation. I found out who went through the scene. I also got, if you're worried about other footwear impressions, why I didn't collect those, I received images of those other subjects that were inside the house, and that is in my report.
And those would be
The victim, the victim's husband, the family members that walked through there. I was able to determine deputies normally wear a certain type of boot, different brands, but it's pretty consistent. And I am pretty well trained to do footwear impressions. In fact, I train my agency as well as other agencies. So I'm pretty consistent.
Yes, you would give me one moment. Someone relayed to you, and this is in reference to the safe. Someone relayed to you that there was a lot of pulling on this door. So
I would say manipulation. Reportedly, people tried to get in it without the combination.
yes, and you were not able to identify any fingerprints at all.
That is correct. I did not observe any specific prints.
And what portions on that safe did you dust? Was that
I did not dust anything on that safe. If I dusted on the safe, I would have contaminated the DNA.
Yes, thank you. You used the light to observe.
Oblique lighting, yes, sir.
I ask you about the Q-tips quickly. These Q-tips, are they normal sized Q-tips? Are they?
The swabs?
Yes, the swabs.
They aren't your normal Q-tip. They are, the heads are about the same as a normal Q-tip, but then they can either have a plastic stick or a really thin wooden stick. So lengthwise, they're approximately 8 to 10 inches. I've never really measured one.
And your functions don't involve the actual testing.
That is correct.
In reference to the can, the 409 can, you stated earlier something along the lines of you were given information on the particular situation this can was utilized. Could you shed some light on that? What was the particular situation?
I was advised that the victim was forcibly sexually assaulted and that the male suspect sprayed the 409 carpet cleaner in and on the victim during the act.
So, and you were not relayed any information about penetration technique?
No, but that would not have affected the way I would have collected it.
In reference to that can, when you dust, does that preserve the print?
It would enhance the print, but I did not dust the can.
You did not dust the can?
No, sir, that would have damaged any DNA. I just collected the can. I just picked up the can and put that in the paper bag. That way that the lab can determine what was the best way to process that.
So the lab would have been able to dust it at a later time if they decided to.
If they so choose to dust it, but the lab has got other means available to them, especially in a controlled environment, like the lab, they could use chemical enhancements and things like that. But if that was going to be going to DNA first, that would need to go to DNA first before that would be, and then they could I don't know what they use to process that. That would be something you need to ask the scientists.
Yes, all right, thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Jones, any redirect?
No, Your Honor, thank you. We ask that the witness be released from her subpoena.
You will be released from your witness subpoena and are free to go. Thank you.
Can I ask so much?
Yes, you won't be recalling. She's free to go. You're released from your subpoena, so you're welcome to be in the courtroom to watch. Mr. Jones or Ms. Keck is your next witness.
It will be a little bit longer, and it will probably make more sense to do it after.